Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about 10 older eyeshadow palettes that are still on my wish list. These are still kind of in the back of my mind, and I haven't decided yet if I'm going to buy them or not. Maybe you guys can help either talk me out of them or talk me into them if you have them or if you've tried them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know I saw one of my favorites, Andrea Mattiliano, film a video like this a few months ago. I think it was a while ago at this point, but ever since I saw her video, I've kind of had it in the back of my mind to film my own version. So I've compiled a list. These are 10 palettes that are still tempting me. I'm still kind of on the fence. If I ever were to see these on like a really good sale, I might just snag them. Actually, a couple of them were recently on sale and I couldn't make up my mind, so I just ended up not buying them, but we'll get to that. So let's go ahead and start with two palettes from probably my favorite eyeshadow brand, BH Cosmetics. So I already own 3 BH palettes. I have Mimosa, Summer in Saint-Tropez, and what's it called? Lost in Los Angeles. And the two that are still tempting me are Blueberry Muffin and Avocado Toast. Actually, it looks like Blueberry Muffin is becoming harder to find. It looks like it's now only available on Beauty Bay. I don't really know what's happening with BH Cosmetics. I know they filed for bankruptcy and then they were bought out by Makeup Revolution. Really hoping that that doesn't mean their eyeshadow formula is going to change and that they're going to discontinue everything. That would make me really sad, but it does look like some of their palettes are getting harder to find. Blueberry Muffin at least is still available on Beauty Bay, which I've never shopped on Beauty Bay. So anyway, Blueberry Muffin, I'll pop a photo of it here on the screen. It looks so cute. You guys know I love blue eyeshadow. I've especially been on a blue kick recently. It has a really pretty periwinkle shade in it too. I don't feel like I have a periwinkle, like a true light periwinkle like that. That's the shade Cheat Day in this palette. Even though it's called Blueberry Muffin, I think it only has maybe 5 like true blue shades. One of them is like a really, really deep navy blue. And then there might be kind of like a duochrome looking blue in there as well. So it's really not that blue of a palette, which is okay with me because I already have quite a few blues in my collection, but it also has some grays and just some kind of general cool toned shades. I'm sure I would really enjoy this palette. The thing that's keeping me from buying it is because I feel like it's similar to my Shared Planet Polar Bear palette. Honestly, if I look at these two side by side, I feel like there are a lot of similarities. I do feel like the vibes are similar shade for shade. I don't know that there are that many overlapping shades between this and Blueberry Muffin, but this does have a matte gray in it. It has a royal blue, but this one is a shimmer, whereas the BH one is a matte. And this one doesn't have any matte blues. So I guess now that I'm looking at them both side by side, they're not that similar. And then I do also have of course, my e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, which is one of my all-time favorites. And this one does have several blues in it that do seem to kind of overlap with the blues in Blueberry Muffin. But anyway, if you have BH Blueberry Muffin, do you feel like it's worth it? Do you think I would like it? I know a lot of you guys have recommended it to me. I'm especially curious to hear if you have both Blueberry Muffin and either of these palettes. Let me know, do you feel like it offers something different? Does it bring something truly unique to the table? I mean, it is a nice, affordable palette. I love the BH Cosmetics formula, as you guys know, so I feel like if I had it, I'd probably really like it, but do I need it? That's the true question. So let me know if you have thoughts on that. And then Avocado Toast. So Avocado Toast is still available on Ulta's website. This kind of has all the colors of Avocado Toast. It's got a lot of greens, it's got some browns and beiges. It's got a really cute like pale pink shade called Pink Salt. And a lot of these greens I don't feel like I have in my collection. I don't own a lot of greens, and up until this year I haven't really been that big of a fan of green eyeshadow on myself, but lately I've been wearing a lot more greens. And of course I do have some staple greens in e.l.f. Earth and Ocean, but this actually only has 2 greens in it. It has this shimmery kind of olivey green and then this matte green, and then this shade is vaguely green, but it's more of like a mossy, deep greenish brown. A lot of times when I think of greens, I think of this palette, but it really only has 2 greens in it, so am I talking myself into this palette right now? Maybe. And then there is my Subculture palette, which does have some greens in it as well. It's got this light metallic green, and then an army green, which I honestly don't really like, and then a couple of more like teal evergreen sort of shades. But honestly, looking at my collection, I don't own many greens, but there is another greenish palette on this list that we'll talk about in a second that I actually feel like is kind of similar to Avocado Toast. In fact, let's go ahead and talk about that one right now while we're on this topic. So I do have several Profusion palettes on this list. In fact, 5 out of these 10 palettes are Profusion. I didn't even realize that till just now, but there are a lot of Profusion palettes on my wish list, mainly because Profusion is so affordable, and I love my Mauves palette, but Profusion's shadow formula, I'll preface this by saying I do feel like their formula is hit or miss. I think that their shimmers are fantastic, so anytime a palette is like at least half shimmer from them, I think it's worth considering for me. I do feel like their matte formula is definitely a little bit hit or miss, so I don't tend to go for their all matte palettes. I don't really tend to go for all matte palettes anyway. I'm more of a shimmer kind of person anyway. So the first Profusion palette that we'll go ahead and talk about is the Emeralds palette. And if you look at this one next to the BH Cosmetics Avocado Toast palette, they do have some similarities, so I'm kind of trying to figure out which of these is better. If any of you have both, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Yeah, lots of similarities. Emeralds is a little bit more curated though. This is a 10 pan, whereas Avocado Toast from BH is a 16 pan, and I do tend to favor smaller palettes whenever possible. Something about a more curated color story really speaks to me. But I love that this has a really pretty pale green shimmer. It's got kind of a bright grassy green matte, a deeper kind of teal emerald. I also really like that top middle shade called Russet. It's kind of like a medium toned peachy matte that I feel like would pair really well with some of these greens. I always like pairing kind of a warm peachy matte with colorful shades like blues and greens. I feel like that goes really well as a transition color or crease color. Oh yeah, the more I look at this one, I actually feel a little bit more drawn to Profusion Emeralds than I do Avocado Toast. So the real kind of tiebreaker I think would be, is this Profusion Emeralds formula as good as, say, the Profusion Mauves palette that I already know I love? Because if so, then I think I would pick it up. I'm thinking about soon placing an order just on the Profusion website. I saw that they also have these new liquid blushes that look absolutely beautiful. I heard Emily Noel raving about them, and then one of you guys recently commented and told me that I should try those, so I'm on the verge of placing like a big old Profusion order on their website. One thing to keep in mind with palettes, this year I set myself a limit for how many palettes I'm allowing myself to buy, so I'm allowed to buy 5 palettes this year. I've already purchased one, and it was the Flower Desert Lights palette, which I'm loving by the way. So I need to keep that in mind too. I'm not trying to go crazy and buy a ton of palettes this year. Yeah, I would say Profusion Emeralds is on the top of the list here, even a little bit over Blueberry Muffin, I would say. One of the other 10 pan palettes that I'm eyeing from Profusion is their Citrine palette. And I think I mentioned this last year in a video about palettes that I had taken off my wish list. Citrine was one of them, but since then, it's slowly crept its way back onto my wish list because a few of you guys have told me that you really like this one. So this one does have 5 shimmers, which is good because I know I love Profusion shimmer formula, and then it has 3 matte yellows and 2 matte kind of brownish tones. This looks really pretty. I love yellow eyeshadow, and I don't have a ton of yellow in my collection. I think I could probably piece together like a decent yellow collection. The thing that's kind of holding me back from picking this up is that I do, again, have my e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, and this has a lot of those yellows and golds in it. And this Profusion Citrine palette, it really only has 3 true yellows that I can see, and they're all matte, and they all look like they might be kind of similar to one another, so that's the thing that's kind of keeping me from picking it up. But in my e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, I do have 2 yellows in there, and then some browns similar to Citrine, and then some kind of olivey taupe colors as well. So Citrine is not as high up on my list as Emeralds, but it does still look really pretty. Now, there's another yellow palette from Profusion that I'm also considering, and that is their Gold Rush palette. Now, this is a much larger palette. This, to me, almost looks like a larger version of Citrine. It does have more yellows in it. It has a couple of matte yellows, some shimmery, like metallic yellows, and then a bunch of browns, taupes, some really pretty looking like kind of sparkly shades. So this is a 21 pan palette, which is a larger palette than I would typically allow into my collection. I do, like I said, I tend to prefer smaller, more curated palettes these days. And this also has a lot of browns in it, which I just don't feel like I need a lot of browns in my collection. But it's 21 shades for $12, which is quite a bargain, and I would probably wait until Profusion maybe has a sale on their website so I could even get more money off. But I think the fact that this palette is dominated by browns, I'm kind of talking myself out of it right now. That's probably the reason why I wouldn't pick it up. But this does look like a really pretty, like, larger, cheaper version of the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. I did own Naked Honey, and I actually ended up decluttering it because I just didn't end up liking it as much as I thought I would. It wasn't yellow enough for me, but both Citrine and Gold Rush do look like better versions of Naked Honey to me. So I'm considering it. If you have Gold Rush and you have an opinion on it, please let me know. Maybe you can talk me into it or out of it. Okay, so the next palette from Profusion, this one's a little bit different for me, but this is another one of their 10 pans, and it's their Rubies palette. So this is a very red toned palette. I like that it has some oranges and like kind of fiery corals in it. I do love those kinds of shades. I think those shades are beautiful on blue eyes especially. It's got some like really rich reds, and then all the shimmers in here look really pretty. This again has 5 shimmers and looks like 5 mattes. Yeah, the more I look at this palette, the more I want it. I feel like I haven't heard anyone talking about this one though. I don't know if any of you guys have ever mentioned it to me either, so I think this would make a really pretty like summer palette. It just looks like summer to me, so let me know your thoughts on that. It does run a bit deep for me though. I don't typically go for palettes that are mostly like medium to deep tones, which this one, well, there's some lighter tones in here too. I don't know. I'm definitely considering this one. So the last Profusion palette I wanted to talk about is another one of their larger palettes. This is another 21 shade palette from them, and this is their Enchanted palette. This is an all shimmer palette, which I don't mind an all shimmer palette, and I only have a couple of all shimmer palettes in my collection. I think the only ones I have are both of my flower Jungle Lights and my Flower Desert Lights, but I definitely see the purpose and the appeal of an all shimmer palette because, and this one in particular just looks like it has basically all of those shimmery jewel tones that you could ever want. So, you know, let's say I want to just like throw some random mattes in my crease, or even just like throw my bronzer in my crease and then pop a shimmer on the lid. That's kind of what this palette would do for me. And it has some gorgeous shades in it. It's got like a lime green, an aqua bluish color. It's got some yellows in it, some pinks, some more neutral tones, some blues. It's kind of got a little bit of everything, but it's just a bunch of jewel tones. So of all the Profusion bigger palettes, this is the one that's calling my name the hardest. The hardest? What? Even more so, I think, than Gold Rush. So, wow, the more I look at this, the more I want it. It's so pretty. So pretty. I feel like I'd get a lot of use out of this, but I'm curious to hear about the formula specifically. Like, these shades do look very intense and foiled in the pan. I'm wondering how that translates to the eyes, for one. Is there a lot of fallout? Are they as pigmented as they look? Because they look really pigmented here. And I already know that I tend to like Profusion's shimmer formula, so I have a good feeling about this one. Okay, so moving on from Profusion, let's talk about Nabla, because there are a couple of Nabla palettes that are on my wish list. Alright, so the first one is the Nabla Side by Side palette, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Sarah, this was just on sale for like half off in the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale, and you're absolutely correct. I sat there and thought about it for so long, and I started to get more and more anxious and more indecisive, and I was just like, no, just forget it. Just forget it. We're not going to buy it, because I just couldn't decide. And there's another Nabla palette that I was also considering, and that's the Cutie Platinum palette. I think if I were to get a Nabla palette, it would probably be the Cutie Platinum first, because I would like to just try the formula before I commit to the larger side-by-side palette. But this side-by-side palette looks like basically the perfect neutral palette. It's got cool tones, it's got some warmer tones, some neutral tones. Kind of looks like an elevated version of the ABH Soft Glam palette, which I do have, but for some reason I just am not feeling as into that palette as I once was. This kind of looks like everything I'm currently wanting and craving in a kind of glam neutral palette. And I know so many people love this one, so this is kind of at the top of my list for like the next neutral palette that I would want to get, but I just haven't taken the plunge yet. I'm sure it will go on sale again. Nabla frequently goes on sale in Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. I think they also have sales on their websites periodically, so I would definitely wait for a good sale and hopefully get it for like half off. I know I just missed the previous sale, but if you have this palette, do you love it? Do you hate it? What are your thoughts? Okay, but then the other one is the Cutie Platinum. This one I was so close to buying the other day when it was on sale for $12 in the 21 Days of Beauty sale. This one, my friend All Things Alicia over on YouTube had me so sold on it. She sent me like swatches of it and everything. I was so ready to buy it. And I just couldn't make the decision, so I just decided, I guess if I'm feeling this indecisive, I should just wait and see if I still feel this drawn to it next time it goes on sale. So that's my plan for right now, but this looks like a nice curated shimmery, kind of cooler toned palette. And it's 4 shimmers and 2 mattes, which is like the perfect ratio to me. I do love shimmers, and Alicia was saying that she loves specifically the shimmers in this palette, and I know that she and I have similar taste in eyeshadows and in shimmers. She also loves the Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette, which I love, so I feel like we're on the same wavelength. I'll link her Instagram below. She does project pans and reviews, and I think a lot of you guys would really like her. Yeah, I am drawn to this one. I think of all the Cutie palettes, this is the one I would want to try first. I've never tried Nabla's eyeshadow formula before. I've actually only ever tried one thing from Nabla before, and it's their Skin Glazing highlighter in the shade Privilege, and I love it. So now I am kind of itching to try more from Nabla. They're kind of like the next high-end brand that's sort of on my radar. The final palette that is on my wish list is from Ace Beauté, and this is their Flare palette. I've never tried anything from Ace Beauté, but they are one of those, I think they're technically an indie brand if I'm not mistaken, and they are a Black-owned brand as well, so they're definitely on my radar. They have some gorgeous palettes. They have a lot of colorful palettes, and this Flare palette, there's just something about this color story that really speaks to me. It is definitely a deeper leaning palette, which wouldn't normally appeal to me just because I do tend to prefer lighter shades on myself, but this looks like a great grungy, colorful palette. It has some really pretty greens, blues, oranges, a few neutrals thrown in there. So I don't know. Again, I've never tried anything from this brand. I've never tried their eyeshadow formula. So I do think they recently reformulated this palette and a lot of their other palettes as well. So if you've tried the reformulated version, please let me know your thoughts, if you wouldn't mind. I'm looking at the swatches on their website right now. The shade Biscotti looks like the most gorgeous duochrome lid shade I've ever seen, and I feel like that would pair so well with so many of these like rich, matte, colorful shades. And like I said, I don't normally go for deeper tones like this, but I'm kind of loving this like rich jewel tone vibe of this palette. As you guys can probably tell, I really like jewel tones. So this one is definitely on the wish list. Let me know if you've tried this palette, especially the reformulated version. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Would I like it based on what you know about my preferences? I would really appreciate any input that you have. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about these 10 palettes that are still on my wish list. Even though they're not new launches by any means, they're still in the back of my mind. If I ever were to see these on a really good sale, I would certainly be tempted to pick them up. So if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. I upload 4 videos a week lately, so I'd love to see you again very soon, and hopefully I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!